I want to show you how you can create a script in order to update your metadata all at once after you created it. Okay, so this is an answer to this user here that requested this kind of content, and also a lot of other users that asked me these on DMs on Discord and Twitter. So I hope this will be useful. So first of all, I just created a Visual Studio Code project where I have a metadata folder with some test metadata from Daniel, aka Ashlips. So this is just random metadata that we can use as an example. And I have a simple update.js file because we are going to use Node.js in order to create our script. So first of all, since we are going to handle files, I'm going to create a const fs. And I'm going to require the file system library from Node.js. And then we can also create some variables that can be useful. So a path variable that is going to be their name. And I'm gonna append just a slash metadata, because in this case we are supposed to run our script from here, the root folder, and it's gonna take a look at the metadata inside the metadata folder. So this is the first variable, and the next one is not gonna be actually a plain value but an anonymous function. So let's create a build description which is equal to an anonymous function that takes an old value and an ID. And then we're gonna take a look at what it is. And in this case, I'm just gonna return an example description. I'm not gonna use the variables, the arguments of the anonymous function, but that's just as an example. And we can also create the same concept for a build name variable. So we're getting an old value and an ID, and this is gonna be name hashtag ID. Okay, now in this case we are actually using the ID argument. So another one can be const build image URI, and these can take the same values, so old value in case we need it, the ID, and it can be something like IPFS, CID, which is just a test here, and we can also do ID.png. Okay, and now what I would also like to have is a function that can extract the token ID from the file name. So I can create a const get token ID function, and this function is gonna get the file path, and it's gonna use that in order to return a value. So return, we're using the file path, and we are matching against a regex. So it can be, for example, just a simple number, so from 0 to 9, and we want probably more than one number here. We escape the dot and we say JSON, and this should be a valid regex. From this match, we're gonna take the first token, which is the number here. We are extracting the number from the whole name, and it's gonna be on the first position, the second actually, of this array. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is reading our directory with a synchronized function. We don't need to make this asynchronous in this case, just to keep it simple. We do a for each, and inside of this, I'm gonna create an anonymous function that takes the file name and does some stuff. First thing that we have to do is creating a file path variable, which is done by taking the original path and appending our file name, which should also have another letter here, another he. Okay, so that's correct. We can then create a stat variable that is equal to fs stat sync of file path. This is gonna give us some information about the file itself. So we want to make sure that this is actually a file in case we have some subfolders inside the metadata folder. So what I'm gonna do is stat is file, and if this is not a file but is a directory, I'm gonna just simply return. So we can skip this file. And now I want to make sure that the file name is also ending with .json. So we want to take a look at just the JSON files here. Okay, inside this if statement, we can read the JSON content, and we can do that by requiring it. So here we can use the file path directly, and we can also extract the token ID using our function. So get token ID, and it's gonna be taken from the file name actually. Cool, so now we have the current JSON content and also the token ID. We can now maybe update the name of our token, and we can use the build name function. So we can pass the JSON content .name and also the token ID. So a new name can be done. I can also use Option Shift, maybe Alt Shift on Windows, and the down arrow in order to copy the line multiple times. And in this case, I'm gonna do the same for the description. I'm gonna use the description as a hold value, and I'm calling the build description function. And we're also doing the same for the image, build image URI. And that's awesome. So now let's write the new content to the target file, so to the same file. So I'm gonna do fs write file sync file path, and I'm gonna need to stringify the new content, so JSON content, and I want it to be readable, so I'm gonna set 2 spaces for the indentation, so we're gonna get a clean output here. And now let's test it and let's see what it does. So node update.js, we didn't get any error, so let's inspect our files. So here it says name 1, example description, we have the CID with 1 JPEG, so this is correct. Also token number 2 is correct, and so on. So we are updating all of these files at once. And we can also test this. That's description using ID, and we can use the ID. So we can run this again, and this is gonna do the same, okay? So we have this ID 4 for token number 4, ID 3 for token number 3, and so on. But the comment from the guy here was how to remove a non-attribute from all metadata files together. So it's probably referring to some metadata, some traits here that have a non-value. So here I'm creating this example here, and token number 3 is going to have this non trait value. So let's find a way to do this. There are multiple ways to achieve the same result. You can use filters, you can also use for loops, whatever you want. I'm gonna try to keep stuff simple here, so I'm gonna create an attributes array, an empty attributes array, and I'm gonna loop over the attributes here. So in order to do this, I'm gonna create a for each, and we have the value option here, so I'm gonna call it attribute. Of course, we need to have that as an attribute to an anonymous function. And now I'm just gonna console log the attribute, so we can check that everything is working correctly. And yep, we are getting all the traits for all the attributes. So what can we do with this? We can do an if statement and say if the attribute value, because you see this is an object, it has a trait type and a value. If the value is not equal to none, then we want to add it to the attributes. So we can do attributes, the array up there. We want to push a new value, which is this attribute here. And in the end of this, we want to replace the JSON content dot attributes with our brand new attributes. And the write function is gonna update the content. So let's run this again. I'm gonna check. Here we have the none attribute. If we run this, it's gone. Okay, so this is a quick example. Of course, you can do it in many ways. You can even do better. That's just a quick demonstration of how to do that. And I hope this can be useful. And that's all for this video. If you have any questions or anything you would like to see in the next videos, please let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and bye!